Welcome, pastors and Bible study leaders, to another deep dive
Yeah.
into some really fascinating scripture.
Absolutely.
Genesis 22, 1 to 14.
Big one.
You all know the story of Abraham and Isaac, so we're not going to waste your time with the basics.
No.
This is all about fresh insights and sermon illustrations to bring this passage
Right.
to life for your congregations.
It's amazing how much is packed into just these few verses.
It is.
We've got sermons here from pastors all over, and
Yeah.
they hit common themes, but with a spin every time.
Yeah, it seems like every pastor we look at,
Yeah.
they took a completely different angle on this.
Every single one.
So let's jump right into Abraham's journey.
Right.
Los Lomas Community Church talks about how this was so much more than blind obedience.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They even suggest that Abraham may have taken the long way up Mount Moriah,
Interesting.
just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, was that doubt creeping in?
Right?
Or was it just this unspoken plea for a last-minute miracle?
Desperate hope.
Yeah, it adds this whole layer of complexity to his faith.
Yeah.
He wasn't a robot.
Right.
He struggled.
This wasn't easy for him.
No, and that's what makes him relatable to our congregations.
Right.
They see their own doubts reflected in this giant of faith.
And then there's that powerful word Abraham uses when God calls Hineni,
Yes.
Breath of Life Fellowship, and Living Word Church, Corpus Christi.
Mm-hmm.
Both point out the deeper meaning there.
It's more than just, here I am, isn't it?
So much more.
It's a declaration.
Yeah.
It's a commitment.
He's ready to act,
Absolutely.
even before he knows the details.
Radical trust in God.
I mean, talk about a tough concept to preach.
Oh, yeah. Especially today.
When everyone wants control
Right.
and certainty.
But imagine the impact if our congregations grasped this,
Pre-deciding to obey.
even before we know what God's asking.
That's next level faith.
It is.
And if we're being honest, how often do we actually live that out ourselves,
Good point.
let alone inspire it in others?
Yeah.
Breath of Life Fellowship also makes this really interesting distinction between the manufactured and the manifested.
Using Ishmael and Isaac as examples.
Oh, yeah. Unpack that one for me.
Okay, so they're saying that Ishmael represents human effort. Sarah trying to force God's hand.
Right.
But Isaac,
Yeah.
he's a direct result of God's promise.
The manifested versus the manufactured.
Jack?
What a sermon illustration for trusting God's timing.
Oh, it's powerful.
Even when it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, think about the anxieties people bring to us.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Career struggles, finances, relationships.
Mm,
How often are they trying to manufacture solutions instead of waiting for God?
to manifest his provision.
Right?
Okay, we can't talk about Genesis 22, 1 to 14 without talking about substitutionary atonement.
Of course.
Lots of sermons connect Isaac to Jesus.
Right, foreshadowing Christ's sacrifice.
But Solid Rock Community takes a different approach.
Okay, I'm curious.
They suggest that Isaac actually represents humanity
Bound by sin?
and awaiting death.
Wow.
It's bleak, but then it
Yeah.
makes the contrast even stronger.
Okay.
The ram becomes the Christ figure.
Stepping in to take Isaac's place.
Our place,
Wow.
facing death head on.
That's powerful.
It's not just one person for another.
Right.
It's about Christ rescuing us.
From the consequences of sin,
It's visceral.
yeah, it's not just a theological concept.
People can feel that.
It speaks to that deep need for salvation,
Absolutely.
for rescue from something bigger than us.
And then there's Jehovah Jireh.
God's provision.
So often we see it as purely material.
Right.
But Emmanuel Assembly of God,
Yeah.
they point out that Jireh can mean to see.
To perceive.
It's not just about meeting our immediate needs.
It's about so much more.
God revealing our
A
potential,
relationship with him.
this deeper understanding of who he is.
It's not transactional.
Right.
It's transformational.
Not a cosmic vending machine,
No.
but a loving father
Who sees everything.
and knows what we need.
And provides in ways that lead to growth.
I love that.
Me too.
And speaking of bringing these concepts to life,
Yeah.
sermon
Oh,
illustrations.
we've got some good ones.
Lamb on me.
Breath of Life Fellowship uses this great analogy of an elevator ride
I love a good analogy.
for spiritual elevation.
Okay, explain it.
So picture an elevator,
Okay.
people getting off at different floors.
Mm-hmm.
Each person's got a key to a specific level,
Right.
but only those with the penthouse key can go all the way up.
Not everyone's meant to accompany us on our journey.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
About how we lead a diverse congregation.
People at different stages,
Yeah, we can't force spiritual growth.
but we can create the right environment.
Absolutely.
Okay, what else?
CATV uses a children's book.
Yeah, really?
Going on a bear hunt.
Okay.
Remember that line? We can't go over it. We can't go under it. We have to go through it.
Classic.
Perfect for sermons on perseverance.
Because sometimes you just got to go through it.
You can't avoid the tough stuff.
Not a message we always want to hear, though.
No, it can be uncomfortable.
But it's also freeing.
When we accept that challenges are inevitable.
We can stop wasting energy trying to avoid them.
And focus on building resilience.
What else we got?
This one's a little different.
Okay.
Living Word Church, Corpus Christi, uses a birthday party, a group of kids, and a squeezed hamster.
Oh, boy.
To illustrate how pressure reveals character.
Okay, I'm listening.
So just like squeezing a hamster reveals what's inside.
I'm wincing a little, but go on.
The pressures of life expose what's in our hearts.
Okay.
Bitterness, resentment, fear.
Or love, joy, peace.
Even in difficulty.
It's a bit jarring.
Yeah. But sometimes that's what makes it stick.
It makes you think.
Confront uncomfortable truths.
So we've looked at Abraham's journey.
Hineni.
Manufactured versus manifested.
Substitutionary atonement.
Jehovah Jireh.
And some pretty creative illustrations.
It's amazing how much depth there is.
Just in these few verses.
But there's still more to uncover.
Oh, yeah, we're just getting started.
We'll continue our deep dive into Genesis 22, 1-14 in just a moment.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me how a story like this. So, ancient Genesis 22, 1-14 can still speak to us today.
It's alive.
It is a living word.
Yeah, and for us as preachers, that means
we
never run out of material.
Right.
Always a new angle to explore.
A deeper meaning to uncover.
So what other gems can we pull out of these sermons?
Well, Living Word Church, Corpus Christi, talks about the link between obedience and our relationship with God.
Okay, I like where this is going.
They suggest that obedience actually draws us closer to God. And disobedience creates distance.
Not about earning his favor.
Right.
It's about alignment.
With his heart.
His purposes.
They say God isn't in the information business.
Oh, I like that.
He's in the transformation business.
It's not about knowing the rules.
No.
It's about becoming more like Christ.
And that's a message people crave.
Deep down.
Deep down.
So as pastors, we're not aiming for rule followers.
No.
We want disciples.
Growing in their love for God.
Becoming more like Jesus every day.
Absolutely.
But how do we apply these insights to our own lives?
That's the key question, isn't it?
It's one thing to analyze these sermons.
Yeah.
But how do we turn them into action?
Well, I think one big takeaway is that we have to wrestle with the text.
Not just skim the surface.
Right, just like Abraham grappled with God's command.
We need to wrestle with Scripture.
Let it challenge us.
Stretch us.
Refine our thinking.
Dig deeper.
Yeah, go beyond the easy answers.
Really seek God's heart in the passage.
And sometimes that means facing tough questions.
Apparent contradictions.
Looking at it from every angle.
And it's okay to look to other pastors.
Yes, learn from those who've gone before us.
We don't have to have it all figured out ourselves.
It's a journey we take together.
And once we've done that wrestling, allow the text to speak to us personally.
Then we can think about how to communicate that.
To our congregation.
Make it relevant.
Engaging,
informative between
ancient truths.
And modern lives.
Yeah, it takes creativity.
Empathy.
A deep understanding of their struggles.
Sometimes a good illustration.
A relatable story.
Maybe even a little humor.
Make those truths come alive.
We don't want a dry, dusty faith.
No.
We want something vibrant.
Life-giving.
We want to make the Bible accessible.
It's not just a text to study.
It's a word to live out.
And when we do that,
we're not just teaching.
We're transforming.
Helping people become more like Christ.
One sermon.
One Bible study.
One conversation.
What a privilege.
It really is.
It's not always easy,
No.
but it's so rewarding.
And it never ends.
Always more to learn.
Always more to grow.
More to discover in the scriptures.
Okay, are you ready to uncover some more insights?
I'm all ears. What else did these pastors find?
Well, Northgate Community Church points out something interesting.
Okay.
About the phrase, only son.
They really hone in on that, don't they? Yeah, they emphasize that God calls Isaac Abraham's only son.
Even though
Abraham also had Ishmael.
Seems like a small detail.
Right. But it foreshadows Jesus.
God's only son.
Underscores his unique position.
And it adds another layer to Abraham's sacrifice.
He was offering up the son who represented God's promise.
The lineage of the covenant.
Makes you think about the magnitude of God's sacrifice.
Sending Jesus to the cross.
A love beyond comprehension.
And Northgate Community Church also talks about the location.
Mount Moriah.
Not just any mountain.
No, the place where the temple would be built.
And where Jesus would be crucified.
The Old Testament pointing to the New Testament.
God's plan unfolding across history.
It's incredible.
You know, David Rhodes in his sermon, he really emphasizes fearing God.
You don't hear that much anymore.
Not exactly trendy.
No, but he connects it to Abraham's obedience.
Even when it seemed impossible.
Against every human instinct.
He's saying true faith isn't all warm fuzzies.
It's got to include reverence.
Awareness of God's power.
His holiness.
We're standing before a holy God.
That should change everything.
How we think.
How we act.
Our very being.
It's humbling.
And that reverence leads to obedience.
Not out of fear of punishment.
But out of love.
Respect for our Creator.
Like a child responding to a loving parent.
Exactly.
We obey because we trust Him.
We know He wants what's best.
Even when we don't understand.
And that obedience leads to blessing.
A deeper relationship with God.
His promises fulfilled in our lives.
Okay. Grace Community Church New Canaan.
Yeah.
They bring in this interesting focus.
What's that?
On the emotional side of faith.
We don't talk about that enough.
No, we tend to focus on the intellectual.
Or the practical.
But feelings matter.
They do.
They argue that faith isn't just about believing certain things.
It's about feeling secure in God's love.
Knowing He's got us.
No matter what.
That deep inner peace.
That passes all understanding.
They quote Augustine, "Trial proves us and improves us."
I love that.
Trials aren't meant to destroy us.
They refine us.
Like gold purified by fire.
And boy, do our congregations need to hear that.
In a culture obsessed with comfort.
Avoiding suffering at all costs.
We need to remind them
that sometimes those trials
bring us closer to God.
It's where the rubber meets the road.
Easy to talk about faith when things are good.
It's those fiery trials
that test our faith.
And refine it.
That's when we cling to God's promises.
To the truth that He's always with us.
He will never leave us.
He will never forsake us.
That's a message of hope.
We need to proclaim that from the rooftops.
The good news that cuts through despair.
A lifeline for the struggling.
So we've got obedience drawing us closer to God.
Transformation.
Emotional assurance.
God's provision.
The importance of fearing God.
And those refining trials.
Plus all these amazing illustrations.
Well, not done yet, though.
Genesis 22, 1-14, still has more to give. I feel like we could talk about this passage for hours.
Oh, easily.
But we got to wrap it up soon.
All right, what else do we have?
Well, CATV points out something.
Okay.
That we often miss.
I'm listening.
The cultural significance of sons back then.
Ooh, right.
They were symbols of wealth, strength, legacy.
It makes Abraham's sacrifice even heavier.
It wasn't just personal.
It was cultural.
Like sacrificing his whole future.
Everything he'd worked for.
Hoped for.
His lineage. His legacy.
It's almost unimaginable.
To give that up willingly.
Emmanuel Assembly of God has an interesting take on testing.
Oh, I like those guys.
They challenge the idea.
Yeah.
That it's about proving ourselves.
For reading out the week.
They say it's actually an opportunity.
To discover our potential.
Almost like God saying, I know you can do more.
Right.
I'm going to push you to grow.
I like that.
So trials aren't punishments.
Or obstacles.
They're springboards.
For growth.
And self-discovery.
And they emphasize that this growth, it's not just outward.
No.
It's about deepening our relationship with God.
It's when we're on our knees.
Forced to confront our limits.
And lean on Him.
The test becomes the catalyst.
For deeper intimacy with God.
What a message for people going through tough times.
Reframing the whole idea of testing.
Yeah, we can face trials with a new perspective.
Knowing God's using them to shape us.
It's not about enduring hardship for no reason.
It's about the transformation.
Highland Heights Baptist Church focuses on surrender.
Using Genesis 22, 1-14 to illustrate it.
They talk about living with open hands.
That's a powerful image.
Open hands are receptive.
Willing to receive.
But they also say, when we cling to our own plans,
our desires,
it's like a child refusing to let go.
Of a mud pie.
When someone's offering them something amazing.
They use this analogy of a kid at the beach.
So focused on their mud pies.
They miss the wonders around them.
So are we too fixated on our limited view?
To see what God has in store.
Surrender isn't just giving something up.
It's opening ourselves up to receive.
Trusting that God's plans are good.
Even when we don't get it.
Getting out of the driver's seat.
Letting Him lead.
Even when the road is uncertain.
Life. Melber connects this passage.
Oh, yeah.
To worship.
Interesting.
They see Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac.
As an act of worship.
Radical, but when you think about it.
It makes sense.
Worship isn't just songs and services.
Right. It's a posture of the heart.
A willingness to surrender everything.
Even our most prized possessions.
Aligning our hearts with His.
Putting His desires first.
He becomes the center.
Not just a part.
And that kind of worship
Changes us.
draws us closer to God.
Releases His blessing.
It's not going through the motions.
It's deep.
Authentic surrender.
That changes everything.
I mean, all of Austin brings in a secular example.
Okay, this should be good.
John F. Kennedy's moon landing speech.
We choose to go to the moon.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
What a speech!
They're saying that following God often means doing hard things.
Stepping out of our comfort zones.
Embracing challenges that seem impossible.
Trusting His guidance.
Even when it's risky.
Believing He'll equip us.
Give us the strength.
The wisdom to do it.
And that obedience can lead to breakthroughs.
Victories we never thought possible.
God's purposes fulfilled.
It's stepping into the unknown.
With faith.
And courage.
Knowing He's with us every step of the way.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Different interpretations.
Sermon illustrations. From Abraham's struggle.
To Hineni.
The symbolism of Isaac and the ram.
Mount Moriah.
Trusting God's timing.
Surrender. Worship.
It's incredible how much depth there is.
And all these creative approaches.
It shows how much these pastors have really dug deep.
But through it all,
one theme keeps coming up.
God's desire for relationship.
It's not about the rules.
Or rituals.
It's about drawing closer to Him.
Letting Him transform us.
And that transformation
Emotion means tests, challenges, setbacks.
But He's with us through it all.
Guiding us.
Providing for us.
Shaping us.
Into the people He created us to be.
It's a message of hope.
Encouragement.
So as you prepare your next sermon,
on Genesis 22, 1-14.
remember, you don't have to have all the answers.
Wrestle with the text.
Learn from others.
Let the Holy Spirit guide you.
Don't be afraid to get creative.
Use those unexpected insights.
Those captivating illustrations.
Make those ancient truths come alive.
We have to engage people.
Inspire them.
Challenge them.
Because it's not just about information.
It's about transformation.
Helping people encounter God.
The God who wants a relationship with us.
The source of hope.
Love to sustain us through it all.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into Genesis 22, 1-14.
I hope you got something out of this.
We sure did.
Keep digging deeper.
Keep seeking.
Keep sharing.
We'll see you next time.